Hello, this is your lonely old lady again, and I know I just made a video yesterday and put it up on YouTube, and but things have happened um, in the last 24 hours that are, I think, are kind of funny in some respects. You know, I've been fighting this problem with mice in my house, and I thought there was only one, and then I found there was two. And I found where the mouse hole is, which is behind my washer and dryer, and I have to move at least one of them to be able to get to it. So, and I'm 75 years old, soon to be 76. And so I have to figure out how to do these things myself. But I remember showing you these traps. These are sticky traps given to me by my pest control company. And they're really sticky on the inside. I've had my finger stick to it. My dog had his paw stick to it, and I could barely get his paw off of it. And then it had to hurt when he did it. So it was really, really sticky stuff. So anyway, so I had this, and I decided that the food that I'm putting in these traps apparently are not really drawing the mouse to them, because apparently they're not getting in the traps, and if they are, they're managing to get out. So I bought this mouse bait, or in the process I have gotten the bag of mouse bait. I have to still pay the person for it, but I read the directions, so I knew exactly how to use it and all this kind of stuff. And I decided to put it inside of one of these traps. And because it supposedly will entice the mouse there. It's apparently some flavor they really like or whatever. They have good scent. They smell really enticing to the mouse. So I put those out, and I put two traps. I had moved my dryer so I could get behind there, cleaned it up really back there really good, and then put two of these traps with the mouse poison in them, right along where his mouse hole is. And I figured that they run across these water pipes. And so I figured that they're going to run right into the traps. Well, apparently one of them did run into the traps. But was the mouse in the trap? No. This is the funniest thing, because these traps are really sticky. And I'm going to show you, before I open it up, I'm going to show you the the trap that I found was actually tossed on the floor, and I barely could even reach it where it was tossed to. But anyway, this is kind of what the inside of this thing looks like. It really looks like a real disaster, like the atom bomb hit it or something. But there's no mouse on the inside of it. But it really was a mess. You can see how much of a mess it is. If you look inside of it, that it's all really a mess where the food, there was some cotton in here. There was a lot of things in this trap. And you can see all the way through. And what you can't really see, and I'm going to take it apart to show you, that he was definitely in it. And he managed somehow to wrestle his way all the way through this trap. I'm going to try to open it without getting my finger stuck to it, because there's still sticky stuff on it. But this is the trap opened up, what it looks like. And that is his fur that goes all the way down the full length of the trap. And that's where the food was, on the base of it. All the food, and apparently there was stuff on his feet, and there's cotton there, and there's still some of the mouse bait there. So apparently he got in there, and somehow he was managing to get out by making a big mess, yes. But I cannot believe that this mouse is outsmarting me. I always thought I was pretty smart. But apparently he outsmarts the pest control people too, because he should have gotten stuck in this thing. And obviously I have his fur. I probably have his footprints. It looks like as he was wrestling through, he was nibbling as he went. And I'm not sure. I kind of get really tired looking at this, as big as I am. And this mouse is really only maybe 4 inches long. There's small mice. There's about 4 inches long, and the height of the trap, you can see that he took the fur off of his back, so he kind of barely could fit in there, but managed to crawl through it. I cannot believe that this is a mouse. This is a mouse. They shouldn't be this smart, but apparently they are. And this apparently was one of them. I don't think the other one, I think the other one stayed in the hole, which I have put these poison pellets in that hole too. And so I have to, when I need to get back there, I need to move the dryer, which is really, it's heavy and it's hard to move. But before I can move the dryer, I have to move my salt container for my water softener. That is really heavy. I can manage to get it scooted out. Move the dryer. I should record this fiasco the next time I do it. But, and then I have to get back. I got my vacuum back there and with the hose and cleaned up most of the mess that was back there. And I walk back there and I actually take some of these pellets and put it in that hole, which I've kind of left open for now because I want the mice to, if there's 2 of them or 3 or however many, I want them to go in and out of that hole. And on the way, I want them to pick up a couple of bites of those pellets. And because of the nature of this particular poison, as I'm told, that if they eat it and then they go back into your walls or they go somewhere in the house and you don't know where they're at when they die, that you're not going to find them because they smell bad, because they're mummified and they don't rot. So that's a plus, and I'm not overly concerned with that. So this is the beginning of my day, was figuring out how this mouse, and he even chewed the opening to this thing. You can see the chew marks on the opening of this trap, and he really decimated the inside of it. So I still got traps out, and I'm taking all the food out of it and just putting the mouse pellets in it, so that he will eat the mouse pellets and not any of the other foods. And see if maybe, even if they crawl through and hopefully they nibble on the way, that they'll die somewhere. And soon enough, I will not have this mouse problem. Meanwhile, I have taken all of the food in my pantry, that was in bags and boxes and everything else, and I have put it in containers they can't get into. They're actually, I may take you back there and kind of show it to you. Yeah, I will. I'll show you what kind of containers these are. They're plastic containers, but they're not the ones you buy in the store. That actually mice can chew through those. So hold on for a minute, and I will take you back and show you what I have done to my pantry to kind of keep the mice hungry, so that they'll go for the traps. So I'm now back on in my pantry area, and I'll show you the kind of things that I've done. I used to have a lot of foods in bags and things, which of course, guess what they did? They got into the bags. They did in a whole bag of potato chips. And that feeds them and keeps them plump for a couple of days. So then it'll take a couple of days before they'll go into and be looking for food again. So in order to keep them hungry, I have to keep the food away from them, except for where I want them to be. So I'm going to kind of show you what my pantry looks like now. So up on the top here, these are where I have sugars and flour and things like that. And these are all genuine Tupperware containers. They're thick plastic, and the advantage to them over the ones you buy in the store are the fact that the mice cannot get through that plastic. And then the only bags I've got are these, but it's not anything they seem to be interested in. And then the next shelf down, this is the shelf that they're on the most. And these are all, everything on this shelf has been transformed into, if they weren't already in cans, they've been transformed and put into Tupperware containers out. And this is actually the most active shelf. For some reason, this is the shelf they really like. But of course, that's with potato chips, and they've gotten into some Doritos that I didn't even realize I had in here. So I had to really clean through this thing. So I've got a lot of canned goods in here. And then I put bagged stuff into another Tupperware container. This is this. And these boxes, they have not seemed to be interested in because there's really no food in them. And so there's can. And down here, same thing. We've put in various Tupperware containers, canned goods, and kept things that the mice are most interested in these Tupperware. And I've still got some food that probably should be put in Tupperware containers, but I've sold most of my kid items because I haven't been selling Tupperware for the last couple of years. And so now I wish I still had them. My spices, they like to make a big mess of these spices as they go across the spice shelf because all my spices, they're all in jars that they can't get into. And so they run through this a lot. And as they run through, that's usually by the time they get here, they're pretty mad and they're pretty hungry. And so when he runs through there, even though they're not very big, he'll throw these spice bottles all over the place. And that's kind of how I know that he's been in there. And he uses this shelf as a transition to get over behind my microwave oven, which that particular mouse, I mean, they've got their own ways of traveling, and they usually do the same path over and over. So that really is kind of helpful to know where to put these traps. So anyway, so this is kind of my life right now until I figure out or get to know whether these mice are goners or whether they're still around. And it'll probably take a few days to know for sure, one way or the other, whether they're have crawled somewhere and died, or whether they have just kind of given up and run into that hole. And the hole, which I can't show you because I'd have to move my dryer, and it's a big hassle to do that. But there's a nice big mouse hole there, and I'm not sure where it leads to. But what I'm going to do to keep the mice from going in or out of it, wherever they are, and I'll keep those pellets in there so that if they can't get out, they'll eat the pellets and they'll crawl somewhere in there and die, which I have no problem with. So I'm going to stuff steel wool in that hole after I put some pellets in there and make sure they're down deep in there to where there's quite a bit of food that they could eat. My food, they may not like it, but my food, and apparently it's delicious to them, so they'll crawl somewhere and die. So anyway, then I'm going to put steel wool because they don't like trying to get through steel wool. They can't gnaw through the wire stuff in there. So I've had experiences with raccoon that was in my roof with her little ones and climbing in and out and having a ball. And so we finally we put some steel wool in there, which really helped get them from going from one house to another. It was a row houses the attics were kind of connected with walls between them. And so finally I had to call pest control guys, and they fixed all the holes and put wire shielding on every place that they could get in. And so that kind of took care of that problem. But the mice seem to be, because they're small and they're fast and they're wily, so you kind of got to try to get ahead of them a little bit, or at least consider yourself a little smarter than they are. So that's the report at this point in time. I probably will have another report in possibly later on this afternoon. I think I'm going to make some zucchini muffins, and I'll kind of show you the recipe that I use, and I'll show you the process of making it, which this recipe is super simple to make. And when they're done, I will show you how delicious they are by eating one in front of you. Sorry about that, but it's hard to get them through the camera. So, but if you would like at that point in time, I can give you the recipe for these zucchini muffins, and you can try them out yourself. But meanwhile, until we actually get to that point, I have other things that I have to do today. So this is another, at least a part of a day in the life of a lonely old lady who has to do things by herself. And so whether she does them right or wrong doesn't really matter. There are people that say you're doing this the wrong way, but hey, then come over here and do it for me. That's the way I feel. I have no problem telling people, if you don't like the way I do it, or you're telling me I'm doing it wrong, come over and do it for me. That would be my answer. So for now, we'll say goodbye.